everybody, Ashley here with a long-awaited, well, I wouldn't say long-awaited, more like been a while since I did a reading. And this was requested by a friend of mine on YouTube as well as DeviantArt. And she wanted me to read her Full Metal Alchemist fanfic. And let's be honest here, people, it's been a while since I did this, and I feel as though it would be a good time to do so. As you can tell, I got envy here. Pretty sure he has something to say before we begin. So, go ahead, Envy.
It certainly feels great to be back. So, I hope you humans or watchers out there pretty much take at least some credit, okay? That I am back. Okay? I am sorry for being gone for so long because someone didn't really give me much attention.
Hey.
But seriously, it's great to be back. So I'm going to be sticking around here. I won't be doing much, but I'm here, so hope you guys enjoy it.
Right. Anyways, without further ado, let's just begin. With the story titled Undo. Summary. A deserted house in the mountain about 3 hours afoot from Central. No one knows how long it has been there or who used to live in it, but rumors had it that it was haunted. Time travel, time loops, monsters, past character deaths. Roy, Patrol Royette, possibly Ed Ling. Because she ships Ed and Ling, which is fine. I'm not against that. Definitely one of the odder shippings. I've never really thought of it. Anywho, based on Hedoni, but you don't have to have played it to understand likely some future trigger warnings. I've never really heard of that. Disclaimer, don't own FMA. I know that. Also, if any course events some contribute, I can't help it because I'm basing the events off of Hedoni's events. With that out of the way, let us begin. As I said, it's staying right there. Well, what do you know? It's really here, after all. Roy smirked at the mansion in front of him. It was surrounded and overshadowed by tall trees, separated from the world around them, which had, quite frankly, made this place a hell of a pain to find. He had come here to investigate a rumor that some of his men had been spreading, suspiciously about children going missing. Why am I suddenly getting deja vu of Mario, the Music Box, and Five Nights at Freddy's? I don't know. Those are the things that just popped into my head. Wait. He didn't know how much base there was to the story, or who had first leaked it. But he was here to get to the bottom of it. He didn't believe in ghosts or anything of the sort. Yeah, because if you know the episode from 2003, basically it was a little ghost hunt. It's just over exaggerating. It's just too good. Who? But he would be damned if he allowed the risk of another child possibly dying at the hands of some crazy lunatic, or whoever was behind the disappearances, and that was why he was here. Jeez, Havoc scratched the back of his head, a cigarette in his mouth. And here I thought it was just a rumor. I never thought we would actually find it.
It has such a desolate feel,
Riza mused. Yeah, not too bad for a haunted house. Right, Colonel? Hey, right, Colonel? Edward added, it was a known fact that he, just like Roy, had never been the type to pay much mind to ghost stories and stuff. So he was obviously just trying to joke around with Roy. Perhaps, but it's nothing that impressive. Sorry, people, it's been a while since I've done any kind of readings.
So sorry.
Anywho, Roy said simply, looking around his surroundings for a moment. Hate to say it, but I kind of have to agree with the Colonel. Havoc murmured. However, Roy said, growing more serious, whether or not this is a hoax, we must not underestimate whoever is behind this until we know who it is, so stay alert at all times. Do I make myself clear? Yes, sir. Riza and Havoc said in a union. At that point, Roy opened the front door and entered. Havoc followed behind. Riza was about to go after them when she noticed Edward wasn't moving. He was staring off into space as if lost in his thoughts.
Edward, is something the matter? She asked in concern.
Huh? He jumped a bit, startled before smiling. No, it's nothing. With that, he ran ahead to catch up with the others, leaving Riza a bit taken aback and worried. But after a second, she regained her composure and entered the house as well, closing the door behind them. The inside of the mansion was huge, from what they could tell. The bottom floor alone split off into 3 different hallways, and even a staircase.
It's clearer than I thought it would be, Riza noted.
Yeah, Roy responded in a low voice, trying his best to ignore the suddenly suffocating atmosphere of the place. What's the matter, Colonel? Edward smirked mockingly, not failing to notice his hushed tone. Don't tell me you're scared. Roy opened his mouth to report when suddenly the stiffness sound of glass shattering interrupted them. It had come from down the corridor to the left. Immediately, Havoc turned to the door. Well, while you guys check that out, I'm gonna go leave now. Hold it, Havoc. You're not going anywhere. Ah, that's our Roy. Roy grabbed the back of his jacket, pulling him back.
Sir, I'll go and check what that was. You stay here with Edward and see what you can find in here.
All right, be careful, Roy said before smiling a bit, figuring she was more than capable of taking care of herself. Well, she is Riza Hawkeye. She has been able to handle this kind of stuff. And make sure to watch out for ghosts while you're at it.
Right.
Riza returned the gesture in amusement.
I'll try to keep that in mind.
With that, she began heading down the corridor. There were only 2 doors in it, one in the middle of the hallway, the second in the end. The first one was locked, so she opted to see if the last door was open. which it was. Upon entering the door, entering the room, she realized it was a kitchen and a large one at that. Walking further into the room, she discovered a broken plate on the floor. But upon inspecting her surroundings, she realized it was over several yards away from the shelf containing other plates. It hadn't just fallen. The only way it could have ended up there is if somebody had intentionally thrown it or dropped it in a specific spot. So somebody else was here after all. But where did they go? Or did they gone? The kitchen was empty as far as she could tell, and there was no other. Well, there was another door besides the shelves, but it was locked. Suddenly, she got the feeling that this had been a ploy to lure somebody off. She had to get back to Roy and the others immediately to let them know what she had seen. Somehow, she felt a sense of relief that the kitchen door didn't get locked while she was investigating the broken plate. After all, that's how most horror stories went. Yeah, they sure do! Then again, she wasn't exactly the type to buy into horror stories, and no matter what kinds of things she could see here, it was no match for what she'd already seen in her life as a soldier in Ishval. So she wasn't really unsettled by this at all. At least, not until she came back and found that Roy, Havoc, and Ed were all missing. And that is the end of the prologue. Well, I'm not going to end it here. Let's keep going, guys. Well, let us continue, shall we? Did they leave after all? Riza mused before calling out, Colonel? No response. Trying her best to regain her composure and level-headedness, she told herself that they had probably went elsewhere in the house to explore. After all, that was kind of what they had to agree on in her moment of stupor. Oh, so that's how you spell it. She had merely forgotten. However, to be safe, she approached the front door and prepared to open it, before she realized that it, just like the other door, was locked. That's odd. Dismissing the matter of the locked door, she figured that maybe there was another way out, like a back exit or something. So, instead of immediately seeking it out, she opted the explored house a bit herself while she was at it. She headed down the corridor opposite to the one she had just come from, which was longer than this one, but only by a bit. In the middle of the hallway, there was a room that contained what appeared to be Zingis screens. Its panels most likely made of rice paper. No, wait, that's pronounced Shingies. Sorry, people, it's been a while since I've seen Brotherhood. Don't get mad if I mispronounce it. However, there was nobody in there, and it seemed empty on the overall. So she didn't pay it much mind, and instead passed by it for the time being. Once she reached the end of the corridor, it split off into yet another passage. And it was at that moment that she saw something that chilled her to the core. Down the opposite side of the hallway she just entered, and with its back turned to her, it was a monster. It was sickly gray with a vague tinge of purple, and it was stark naked. So basically, it's bare skin, okay? It's bare skin. She didn't even think it could be described as a chimera, because it most certainly wasn't a human, nor was it an animal.
What is this, Thousand Doors of Spooky's house?
Anyways, any other person probably would have screamed at the very sight of the beast in her situation, but Riza was smart and rational enough to avoid attracting attention. Despite how unsettling and terrifying it was, it was true that she could probably use her gun against whatever that thing was, but at this point, she had no clue how much damage it would do. So she instead opted to save her bullets and observe what the creature did for now. It lured her on her side. It wouldn't notice her. And apparently, it didn't, because next thing she knew, it entered a room in front of it. The door shut in behind the creature. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, she let out a breath that she didn't even know she was holding. She needed to find the colonel and the others. Could they be in the room with that the creature just entered? Pulling out her gun and holding it in a preparation to shoot if she had to. She decided she had no choice but to take her chances after all. With every step towards the door, her heartbeat becomes faster and faster as the whole atmosphere around her had turned more and more suffocating. Despite all that, she still pressed forward, trying her best to ignore it. This is getting quite tense, people. Finally, she reached the end of the passageway, only hesitating for a brief moment to reach up to open the door. Yet, once again, it was locked. What was with all the locked doors? She would probably need some key to get anywhere in this house, judging by the looks of it. She sighed before turning around, yet still keeping a close eye behind her, and heading back to the area where the front door was. It was at this point she decided to head upstairs, since there didn't appear to be anything of value on the bottom floor. There were 4 rooms in the top floor, 2 on either side of the staircase. Additionally, there was another level above.
Jeez, how big is this place anyways?
She decided to start with the bottom left room, which was locked. So many locked doors.
Ah! You and your locked doors!
Go figure. Before moving on to the bottom right, this one fortunately wasn't locked, so she decided to explore the room a bit, and what she found was the bed immediately took her off guard. Hold on. This is one of the colonel's gloves. But what is it doing here? Ooh. Not good. Of course, it didn't take a lot of effort to piece together that Roy, Havoc, and Edward had most likely had a run-in with the beast as well. That was the only reasonable explanation for everyone going missing after all. Briefly skimming through the drawers, she discovered a first aid kit that she decided to bring with her for safekeeping in case one of the others had got hurt. Aside from that, there was nothing else of value, only a few particular of clothing. So she decidedly made her exit at that point and turned her attention to the top left room, which turned out to be of no interest, and then the top right room. As soon as she entered the room, she heard shuffling. From what she could tell, it was coming from behind the curtain in the corner of the room, likely a closet. Cautiously, and with the same level of appreciation. Sorry, people. Words like this just confuse me. She had felt just a short while ago, although quite frankly she had been pretty tense the whole time. She approached the curtain. It was then that Roy shot out from behind it, pointed a gun at her. Immediately, Riza backed off. Hawkeye! Roy's eyes widened, but he visibly relaxed a bit, lowering the gun before his expression turned sharp and alert, even though it was still clearly shaken up. Have you seen Edward or Havoc? I ended up getting separated from them. No, sir, I haven't, Riza said, trying her best to keep herself calm. I see. Roy muttered before leaning back against the wall, sliding down the ground. I'm kind of worried about them. We got separated when that thing attacked us. Have you seen it? Yes, Riza murmured, nodding. Oh, that reminds me, Colonel, I found your glove in one of the rooms. It was on the bed. Oh, thanks, Roy said despondently, taking the offered glove from her. He always needs to keep a pair of gloves with him at all times, people. That's how he's able to use his alchemy. Sir, if you don't mind me asking, is that why you were about to use the gun instead of your flames? Riza wanted to know, confused because Roy still did have one of his gloves on. It was a known fact that Roy rarely ever relied on guns to do the fighting. He always stuck with his flame alchemy when push came to shove. So if he didn't use it, something was wrong, or something was preventing him from using it. Actually, my alchemy. He met Riza's eyes with a serious expression. It's not working. Dun dun dun! Well, that's pretty bad. Geez, if NV basically had this advantage, he would be able to win in no time. Just saying. This is getting interesting. I swear, it's like one of those haunted house kind of games. I swear, it's just good. Basically, investigation. Team is broken up. Some mysterious forces going on in this place. Oh boy. I'm gonna check out on the next chapter. Let's go, guys. Alright, let us continue. Hold on. You mean you can't use your flames? Riza asked in disbelief. No. Roy muttered grimly. Otherwise, I would have scorched that thing. Immediately, Riza got a pretty clear image of what had probably happened. When she left the room, the monster had entered the room and tried to attack them. Roy and Edward tried to use their alchemy to defend themselves before discovering that it wasn't working. Not having enough time to respond, they all had to run different directions to get away from the monster, and as a result, got separated from one another. I see. This is bad, sir. Without alchemy, Edward is... Riza pondered it for a moment before looking back up with an uneasy feeling in her stomach. Yeah. Roy nodded. already knowing what she wanted to say. Havoc was probably defenseless right now, and without alchemy, even Edward had his limits. So we should probably go ahead and try to find him and Havoc as soon as possible. As he said this, he attempted to stand back up. However, his legs were shaking beneath him, and he was visibly unsteady. Jeez, when you basically are put in a position like this, honestly, this is like I don't know, what, the fifth or sixth time that Roy's been feeling useless? And this isn't even raining, for crying out loud. Anyways, wait, Colonel. Riza rested her hands on his shoulders, urging him to sit back down. I think you should try and calm down a bit first. I'll go and see if I can get some water for you to drink. In the meantime, just stay hidden. Roy didn't even bother to deny being shaken up over the whole ordeal and needing the time to calm down. But he took a moment to study her with, it's that word again. Are you sure you'll be okay by yourself? Riza smiled warmly. Well, it's not like you'd be of any help, sir. As you are now, you'd be completely useless. Knowing fully well that she hadn't said it with any ill intention, Roy offered a weak, dejected smirk in response. You always have been the blunt one, haven't you, Lieutenant? Well, that is part of my job, sir. Riza said softly, and Roy quickly knew she wasn't referring to her job as a soldier, but rather as the person who was there to keep Roy in line and from getting himself killed. And again, it was hard to say what exactly was the best course of action was in this situation. But they both understood that and accepted that risk. It was true that if he went with Riza now in the weak state of mind that he was in, and they happened to run into the monster, he would probably only be a hindrance. I don't know. I'm just gonna say burden to her. It would only put them both at risk. So staying hidden for the time being instead of drawing attention seemed to be the much better and less problematic option for both of them. After all, even now, his mind was racing 1,000 different directions after what he had just seen, and he was not thinking right. He needed a moment to regain his composure. He'd always held a lot of respect for Riza. No matter what she went through, she always remained the stronger one of them. Of course, that wasn't to say she didn't ever lose her cool, but he could usually always look to her to be a rational one about things. Anyways, don't worry, I'll be back in a few minutes. And those two are a lot more capable than we give them credit for at times. So try to calm down for the best you can, alright? Riza said. Roy sighed shakily. Right. The first place Riza tried to get a glass of water was the kitchen, but unfortunately the tap wasn't working. So she decided to try elsewhere. On a whim, she decided to revisit the same hall that she had seen that monster in before, discovering another door that she had apparently overlooked before. It led into a bathroom. What luck. She approached the sink, turning the faucet, and this one actually worked. Much to her relief, It was only upon entering the bathroom that she began to realize just how cold the air of this mansion was, but she decided to ignore it for the time being. She filled up the glass that she had grabbed in the kitchen before turning the water back off and cautiously exiting the room. Fortunately, she hadn't had a run-in with that monster again since she last saw it, but somehow the anticipation made it more disturbing, so she made sure to remain on guard the whole time and continued to poise her gun in preparation to shoot at any given moment. Making haste, she finally returned to the room that Roy was in. Almost instantly, she was greeted by the sound of what almost sounded like a hammer. So, so much for not drawing attention to himself. Colonel, I brought you some water, Riza announced, approaching the now closed curtain. The hammering now stopped, and Roy stepped out from behind the veil, accepting the glass from her. Thanks, and sorry for falling apart on you like that. I think I've calmed down enough now. Though, thanks to you. Knowing me, I probably would have gone and got myself killed. Yeah, not gonna lie, Roy, you would have done something stupid. Then again, whenever has he done something that wasn't stupid? Riza smiled at this. Don't mention it. But, um, for a moment she debated on how to broach the subject. What were you doing in there? It's nothing important. Roy answered dismissively before taking a few gulps of the water. So, have you still not found any sign on the other's whereabouts? No, I haven't. But quite a few of the doors are locked, so I assume it's possible that they've locked themselves in one of the rooms for safety, Riza said. That would make sense. Roy pondered for a moment before remembering something. Oh, that reminds me. I found a key earlier. It might benefit you. What do you mean? Sir, aren't you coming with me? Riza asked, taking the key, which had library written on it in black ink.
Thankfully, it wasn't a skeleton key.
She didn't sound angry, only a bit surprised. After all, just a few minutes ago, Roy had wanted to rush out to find Edward and Havoc, despite his mental state. But now that he had calmed down some, the way he spoke implied that he was encouraging her to do some of her own searching. Actually, there's something I need to take care of first. In the closet? In the end, Riza didn't bother questioning it. This was Roy, after all. Despite how strange it sounded, he must have known what he was doing. She said, Well, just don't go and die on me now if I leave you, all right? I have no intentions to, but I should say the same for you. Be careful, Riza. Roy said seriously, Right, I will. Riza said lightly, in response to him using her first name, before turning to leave the room. Lieutenant Hawkeye. Roy spoke up again. Yes, sir? Riza intrigued, glancing over her shoulder at him. That was an order. Roy gave a more serious expression. Under no circumstances are you allowed to die here. That's Roy for ya! A small smirk tugged on Riza's lips before she momentarily raised her hand for a forward of a salute. Understood. Well, my question is, wherever that monster is, I just hope Havoc and Ed are alright. Because honestly, it's gonna be bad for them. Because we don't know what this stain is capable of. This is basically, well, a new update for the author's note. Anyways, this is my first time ever writing for Havoc. So I'm super worried that I'm gonna screw his character up. It's okay. I know the feeling. I'm afraid I might screw up people's characters or characters themselves. So I know the feeling. And I had a lot of trouble writing this chapter in general. Describing the mansion is not easy feat, I swear. Oh, trust me, I know the feeling. Also, taking into considering the original Heda story, but also the FMA universe and what I thought made more sense or was easier. Some things had to be changed in this. I hope you guys don't mind. It's okay. No one's gonna be mad at you. And also, yeah, I could totally see this being an episode of FMA. Just a bit more darker, to say the least. Anywho, Riza took a few minutes to explore the rest of the house, to see if any of the other rooms were unlocked. But none of them were, although she did discover that there were 4 floors in total. It didn't take long to figure out where the library was. It turned out it was the room closet in the kitchen on the bottom floor. Not sure what kind of house has that, but okay. At first glance, it didn't appear to be anything in particular, and there were only a few rows of books. The majority of the books were dusty, implying that they probably hadn't been touched in months or even years. After passing by the last bookshelf from the door, she saw a small square table in the center, in the corner of the room. There were some papers scattered around it, a couple of books, and even a key. However, she didn't have but a few seconds to think about it because her thoughts were suddenly interrupted by the sound of heavy pattering. Looking up, she saw the beast that had practically appeared out of nowhere, glancing, quickly advancing towards her. Not good! Without hesitating, she held up her gun and shot it. For a moment, blood oozing out from the chest wound where the projectile had hit. The creature stumbled back a bit before once again approaching her, slightly slower and more unsteady than before. Despite her luck, she knew that if she got caught by it, she would most likely be killed. So instead of wasting any more bullets than necessary, she quickly grabbed the key and ran towards the door, not once looking back, until she had closed the door and was back out in the hallway. Oddly, it didn't seem like it had followed her. Not that she planned to go back or wait around to see if it actually had or not. Instead, she focused her attention on the small metal object in her hand. Fortunately, it had 4F written on it. So finding the door that it belonged to was fairly hassle-free. On the other hand, the creaking of the third staircase up, which, quite frankly, was very loud, gave her the unsettling impression that the wood could collapse at any given moment. On the 4th floor, There were 2 doors in total, and the key belonged to the room farthest from the staircase. Instead of the room, there was a large chair, 2 desks, a bookshelf, and upon clearer inspection she discovered that there was a curtain behind the bookshelf. She tried to move the shelf to see if she could see what was behind the curtain, but it was too heavy and wouldn't even budge. Maybe Roy would be able to move it. Exiting the room, however, Riza decided she would first explore the house one more time before going back to him, in case she had missed something, and to give him a little bit of more time to do whatever it was that he needed to do. Huh. Don't you just hate backtracking, people? Because I sure do. Then again, I guess most people would. So minutes later, for the 3rd time that day, she found herself back in the same foyer where she had first seen the monster. And this time, surprisingly, the door it had gone into was open, but the light was off, so she couldn't make out the inside of it, since the dim lighting of the hallway already made it hard enough to see much of anything. Keeping her gun poised, she cautiously approached the door. Once she had reached the door, she began fumbling around the wall to find a switch. Upon locating it, she turned to the light, and that's when she saw it yet again, with soulless black eyes that practically stared into her very being and disturbed her no less than it had than any of the previous times. The monster, its injuries gone once again, stood there in front of her, but only for a moment before taking a swing at her with its huge arm. Good grief, that feels like one of the stretchers from Resident Evil Code Veronica. Or possibly Regenerators or Iron Maidens. People, just envision that. Because apparently it's going for horror themed. Luckily, all of Riza's military training aided her, and she managed to respond quickly enough to avoid the majority of the blow, even though it did still succeed in scratching her arm and draw a bit of blood. Immediately after, she pointed her gun at the beast and shot it several times. It let out some kind of bone-chilling screech before it slashed a hand through the wall and shut off the lights. Riza responded in kind, turning them right back on. But when she turned around, once again, stand against it, it was gone. Jeez, what? I'm not sure what this monster is capable of or what the heck it is, but jeez, that thing is actually quick on reflexes. Refusing to feel discouraged by this unexplanation turn of events, of the fact that it had vanished, and even by her bleeding arm, she turned her attention back to the washroom in front of her. Now that the monster was gone by some fluke, she finally had the opportunity to look around and take in her surroundings. Ugh. Discovering several buckets of water in the corner of the room. Besides them, there was a small rounded table. Another table, okay. When she spotted a key labeled 2FB on its surface, a part of her felt like either the monster or somebody was intentionally laying clues around to mock her. It was almost like she was in some simulation, and that was jarring. But even so, she took the key with gratitude Anyway, afterward leaving. I'm worried about Edward. I should hurry.
Yeah, where is Edward? And where the heck is Havoc?
I just hope we run into them soon. Because honestly, for the most part, it's just with Riza and Roy. She was worried about Havoc as well, but she couldn't help but recall how before they entered the mansion, Edward looked kind of depressed when he had seemed to be like, seemed to think nobody was looking. And even though he had smiled and acted, it was nothing when she asked. Riza was per perceptive and and knew he wasn't telling the truth. She hadn't confronted him on it after that, but a part of her wished she had. Teresa, Edward and Alphonse, hey, mention Ed's brother. Good. Were sort of like the son she never had. Always getting themselves into trouble, especially Edward, because he's hot-headed, tempered, little chibi. Little shorty. Yet they had an extremely admirable sense of loyalty to those they cared about, and didn't hesitate to stand up for what they believed. Anybody who had known them long enough couldn't help but grow to love them deeply. Even Roy, as strained as his relationship with Edward was, obviously cared for the brothers as well as felt similar to how her about them. Not that he would probably ever admit it, of course. Yeah, because Roy is like a father figure to both Ed and Al. It mainly was in the 2003 version. Not much for Brotherhood. Sorry, people. Refocusing on the objective at hand, she returned to the second floor. As it turned out, the key belonged to the room on the bottom left side of the storageway. Top right and coming from the staircase, thank you. This time around, she decided to lock the door behind her and was surprised when she saw Havoc. With his back turned to her, crouched down and shaken between two beds on the other side of the room. Ghost monster! When she approached him, he became aware of her presence, defensively standing up. Get back! Turning around. I'm sorry. I imagine to be super scared, his voice would crack. So, tell me how that was, people. He was holding a little bed lamp in preparation to attack her, since he had no gun on him. Seriously, Havoc? This is why you need to prepare yourself, buddy, just in case these situations. Wait, Havoc, it's just me. Riza tried to reason and held her hands up defensively. Hawkeye? Havoc murmured, taking a moment to realize really just was it really was just her. Pulling back, he lowered the lamp, but didn't let go. Sorry about that. He momentarily noticed her ripped sleeve and slightly blooded wound on her arm, but didn't bother questioning it right away because he could already guess how she got injured. Are you alright? Riza asked. Yeah, just a little shaken up at all. Is all. When you left, there was some kind of monster that came out of nowhere and attacked us. We all saw it. The Colonel and Edward too. And the thing, you've got to believe me. Just hold on, Havoc. You're going into a tangent. I know what you're talking about. I've had several run-ins with it myself, Riza said. What the heck is that thing? Oh, the others. Where are they? When that thing tried to attack us, we split up and ran in different directions. And before I knew it, I wound up here. Please tell me they're still alive. First, please try to calm down. Do you want something to drink? Riza asked, with Havoc freaking out like he was having a cordial conversation with him was going to be difficult. If he didn't get a grip, not to mention raising his voice the way he was, sure was to catch the attention of one of the monsters. Question is, how many monsters are there? Seriously, I don't know about this, but how many monsters are possibly in this? I mean, it can't be the homunculi. That's clearly impossible. Now that you mention it, I am a little thirsty. Having a minute, this is why you should keep water on you people. Just saying. Do you have some water or something with you? No, but I can go and get you some, if you'd like. Riza offered, going back out to get some water for him. Honestly, shouldn't be a condescensional feat, given everything else she's been through thus far. Havoc considered it for a moment, but decided against it in the end. Yeah, on second thought, I don't really need it. So, have you seen the others? Well, the colonel's on this floor, but I'm not sure where Edward went. What? The boss is missing? You don't think he was killed by that monster, do you? I don't know. But please, you mustn't jump to conclusions. Edward is fairly agile, after all. So it's very likely that he managed to get away from it safely. Yeah, considering the fact he is very agile, very fit, and not to mention of his height. Seriously, Ed's pretty agile for his size.
And consider he's a little chibi, it says it all.
At any rate, we probably need to. Riza trailed off into an immune silence when she heard low footsteps and the sound of something coming closer. But a second. She held up her gun. It's back. Ah, shoot! Havoc cursed. Do you lock the door? Did you lock the door? Yes, Riza said. However, it was clear that both of them doubted it would hold forever. That was when they heard it, the sound of the doorknob harshly jiggling. The beast was trying to open the door. After about a minute, however, it stopped. Moments later, Havoc spoke. Do you think it's gone? I doubt it. A lion doesn't just give up on its prey that easily. Riza only realized a moment later just how much she almost sounded like Roy there. You spend time with those type of people, it tends to wear off on them. Grabbing one of her guns, she handed it to Havoc. Here, take this. Oh, you sure about this? Havoc asked a little uncertainty. You are the better sniper. Well, you do need something to defend yourself with. That is true, that is true. Alright, thanks. Havoc said, greatly taking the gun. This will certainly be better than some bed lamp. He laughed a bit, like an idiot. He had accidentally left his gun back at headquarters. Oh, that makes sense! And didn't realize until they had nearly reached the mansion. Of course, none of them had any clue how in confidence it actually be would be in the long run. Anyway, we should probably go touch base with the Colonel. I just want to find the boss and get out of here as soon as possible. I think that's honestly what we all want right now. Riza are in agreement, giving a small, wary smile. So, are you ready? Yeah, as ready as I can be. Havoc smiled a bit himself, despite how apprehensive he really was. With that all said and decided, Riza unlocked the door. And that's where the chapter does end. Hmm. It's nice to see that Havoc actually has time to shine, because honestly, I feel as though the guy needs a little more attention. I mean, he's a cool guy. Even though he's a smoker, he's pretty cool. Plus, he does become even more cooler in Brotherhood, so there's that. But anyways, he actually did pretty good with his character. I'd say it isn't too far off. And, well, I hope you continue with what you're doing, because this is an awesome read. And guys, give this girl appreciation, because she definitely has done pretty good at this work. I hope you all enjoyed this, and I'm sorry if this took a lot longer due to me being a little rusty for reading, because it has been a while. So, yeah. I hope you all enjoyed this, and I will see you all later. This is Ashley and Envy. We'll see you all later. Bye, everyone.